Started. All right. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Learning Quick. Super excited to have on Mahmoud today to talk about getting started in DevRel. And I think we both kind of want to celebrate with each other how fun DevRel is and maybe encourage people to look into a potential career path in developer relations at some point. But welcome to the stream. Do you want to tell people a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background?
Okay, so hi, my name is Mahmoud Abdelwahab. I work as a developer advocate at Prisma. Prisma is a company that makes working with databases easy. And yeah, about my background, I'm currently a computer science student. Some people find that surprising.
It is.
I'm in
I
in my
continue to
fourth year.
forget that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in my fourth year, and it's like a 5-year program, so I still have like a year or something left. And yeah, with Prisma, it started out kind of like a part-time type of thing. And if I have more free time, then I put in more hours. And yeah, so far it's been really fun. I'll let you know about like all the details. But yeah, that's me basically. Like I create content. So I write articles, I shoot videos, I come on streams and hang out. And I also kind of like hang out in the Prisma community, see if anyone has any questions. If someone is struggling with something, I'll try to help them debug it. And finally, kind of like report people's requests.
Mhm.
And yeah, like communicate with the developers where we're going and like our plans and all that cool stuff.
Cool. Love it. Spot on.
Yeah.
Yes. Sam Julene joined in the chat and said that Mahmoud is a wonder kid, which I think is true.
Yeah.
And I
Big
continue.
shout out to Sam.
Yeah. And I don't know if we, like I mentioned, Ambassador Slack, but Mahmoud is an Aussier ambassador as well. Which I feel like this should count as a contribution. We may need to talk to Sam about that, of just like being a part of
Maybe.
a stream, talking about Aussiero publicly. Yes, we'll figure that part out. But one of the things I'm curious about, especially especially being a student, which still is wild, but like, what were some of the things that you did you think that helped you get to an opportunity for being in DevRel? Like, what were some of the stuff that you did that they saw or that you were able to talk about in your interviews for getting into DevRel?
Okay, so the way it kind of all started, I already had an interest in like shooting videos, and I kind of had this, like dream. Oh yeah, I want to be a YouTuber, but it's hard. And I actually started and failed a couple of times. I did not have like a content strategy. I did not have like a target audience. I would just like I think I did a couple of vlogs. They were terrible, but it got me comfortable like talking in front of a
Yeah.
camera. So this was kind of like when I look back, it's kind of like the best thing that I tried. I got comfortable with like editing videos. I experimented with like effects. And yeah, and then I kind of like paused a little bit, and I currently getting a degree. I stumbled like in the world of web development. I started learning. I fell in love with front engineering, and I still do. Like hold a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
But then I was like, okay, I'm in my third year or something, and I was like, okay, I already have decent skills. I built a couple of projects. Let's get some work done. I got some work, but I was like, okay, I want to set myself up for success, and I knew that having content is important. But being visible in the community is very valuable. It doesn't matter if you're a developer or you want to get into DevRel, it's super valuable to just be known in general. So like people, when they know it's easier to just like find opportunities. So yeah, so that's kind of like my thinking in the beginning. So I was like, okay, let's be active in the front end community. So there was a conference. It was by ConfReact. It was a remote conference,
And I think
and
we did this one together, right?
yeah,
Didn't we speak at the same one?
yeah.
Last, yeah.
We spoke. Yeah, so it was really cool. The beauty of this, like by conf, is that it was pre-recorded. So with pre-recorded talks, yeah, it's just a lot less stressful because you can just reshoot everything. It's not like live. And also, one of the things that like I'm actually very comfortable talking live. I have no problem. My only issue is what if like I lag? Like you saw
Hmm.
when my video used to lag before.
We've
It's
had some
just
struggle before.
super stressful. So
Yep.
like to me, I'm like, I want to deliver the best experience for people who are listening. I don't want to waste their time. So like when they're watching, I don't want to make it harder for them.
Yep.
So yeah, so like conferences where talks are pre-recorded, they're super nice. So yeah, I applied to ByConf. I was just like, you know what, there's a CFP, so like call for papers. So what you do is you propose a talk idea, you describe it. If they think it's good, they tell you, okay, go on. Yeah, I got accepted. I was like, hey, I'll just share the mistakes I made while learning how to
Yep.
code. So it's not technical, like the conference is by React, but these talks are welcome in conferences.
Yep.
So I started shooting it, I recorded it, I sent it, and it was live. So this was kind of like the first piece of like my developer advocate portfolio. So this was kind of like the first thing. And during the same time, I also reached out to Will, like William Johnson from
Yeah.
Egghead, and they
Shout out to
had,
Will.
yeah, I don't know if I don't know if he's here or if he's gonna watch this later. But yeah,
He's
so like
in
they
he's in a lot
have,
of them, but I don't think he's here now. But
yeah, so like the Egghead has this learner advocate program where you basically get paid to review courses, make sure the content is nice. If there are workshops, you attend them and make sure that you kind of like ask questions so that there's engagement and everything. Everyone is kind of like alive. The audience is alive. So yeah, I started out with that a little bit, and I just kept creating a little bit, and then they were like, okay, do you want to become an instructor? I was like, hell yeah. So
you're
like
like, who,
again
me?
is, yeah, exactly, like are you guys sure like you don't have like the wrong
Do
address?
you-
And yeah, so I was like, let's do it. And I recorded a couple of lessons, and I'm planning on recording more. It's just things are kind of like there's just so many things going on. And then came Off the Zero ambassadors. So what happened was Off the Zero, for those of you who don't know, yeah, they
yeah,
have
give
a
the
really, really
pitch.
cool, yeah, they really, really cool program where you kind of get the experience of a developer advocate without the stress of it. Plus, you actually get to meet a lot of cool people, and it's a community where people kind of like create content around security, Auth Zero, authentication, authorization. It doesn't have to be all around like Auth Zero. It's about security in general, and they help a lot. They send you like cool swag, and they feature on their website. So like it's really cool. So like and when I applied, I was like, hey, I already made a conference talk and I teach at Egghead. Do you want me to join? They were like, sure. And then I made a talk for Egghead around Auth Zero with React. So it's kind of like two things as well. Like to me, like, yeah, the Egghead platform and as well
Hmm.
Auth Zero.
Yep.
So yeah, this was kind of like what happened. And then I started posting on my YouTube. I had a hard time kind of like staying consistent. And I also did not have a plan for what type of content I wanted to post. So I knew how to create videos, but I kind of struggled with like, okay, who am I creating for? So if you go to my channel, you just find 2 videos and then just crickets, nothing. But I kind of just, I kept thinking for a while of like, what type of content do I want to create? And I found that I want to create content that helps other developers be successful. So I already have experiences building my own websites. I know how to create like a kick-ass portfolio website. You can check out mine. It looks really nice in my humble opinion. Um, but yeah, so like, and I know I have like a ton of things to share. So like how to do these things, how to talk in front of a camera, how to set up your lights so like things look good because like it looks good. And yeah, so like these things I want to share it with like on YouTube, and that's kind of like what I'm planning on, but just need to make the time. And yeah, this is kind of like where I am today. So like with Prisma, I kind of covered already what I do, and the project that I'm working on is I'm kind of building a big app with a lot of technologies. So the main technologies are Next.js, GraphQL, and Prisma with TypeScript.
Love
And
it.
yeah, so like this is what I want to do. So for me, this is kind of like my vision as a developer advocate. I don't want to just create. So like, okay, I can just show you a little thing, how to do a little thing. But to me, I'm not interested in that. I want to kind of like simulate the experience that a developer will go through. So a developer won't just do just a mini integration. No, they have like a big app.
Yep.
So I want to go through like to put myself in the my user's shoes, but not my user, but like the people who are going to use the tool.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I was like, and I struggled, I found like errors, and I kind of like wrote things down. And yeah, so like I value depth a lot with my content. So I want things to be not long and so like there's a lot of fluff, but no, so like there are a lot of details. So when I say, okay, I'm using GraphQL, I'm using it for a reason. If I want to use Next.js, I'm using it for a reason. And I want to explain kind of like the why, not just like the how. But yeah, so that's kind of like fast forward. We're here
Yeah.
now. I'm talking to James.
So all you have to do is make amazing content and speak at amazing conferences, which ByteConf React, I feel like is a pretty big one. Um, a couple of shout outs for
Yeah, like there was
people.
like I'm sorry, like but like there was like Kenzie Dawes, there was like
Hmm.
Swix, there was you, there was so many people. I was like, hi, like
Ali, I
I'm new
think,
here.
I think Ali, I don't know if it's Spittle or Spittel, but she spoke before me, I think, or maybe she spoke after. I can't remember. And I was like, oh, I don't, I don't want to go right next to her
Yeah, like
because she's
damn
so
it, the
awesome. Yeah.
audience has so high
Yeah.
expectations. But yeah,
A couple of shout outs for people that are in the chat. Facundo is another ambassador. Chris DeMars is also another ambassador. Facundo is starting his DevRel journey in June. So shout out to that. I forget what the company is. If you want to put that in the chat, feel free, but congratulations on that. We got a couple of shout outs for Egghead, which is great. Steven Creates was asking when the stream was today. So he has joined, which is awesome. Um,
I think I
Catherine.
know Facundo. Like you,
Yeah,
Facundo, you talk a lot about like Jamstack, right? You had like a lot of talks about that,
I think you're
and yeah,
probably, yeah. Yep.
yeah, I know you. Okay,
I
that's so
I know
cool.
him. And then
Yeah,
Catherine Codes is in the chat. She was on my stream last week talking about her product readme.so, which I'll put a link in here. And I think I told her, but I recorded a video on the product and that will go live, I think, on my YouTube channel next week. So that thing is great. And Facundo says, yes, that's me. I love seeing people make connections. And I think, so this comes back to a really important point that you talked about, just kind of like being there in the community, being a part of the conversations. I've really adapted this to one of my favorite shows is New Girl. I don't know if you watch it or not, but there's a scene.
yeah, I know it.
So there's the scene when Jess, the main character, is trying to get a man's attention and she's competing with another woman for his attention. It's at a wedding. And she asks her friends for advice, like, how do I get his attention? And the advice that she gets is just be there. Everywhere he goes, just be there. When he goes to get a drink, be there. When he goes to get food, be there. When he goes to the dance floor, be there. And I feel like that's the epitome of like setting yourself up for success, either to get into developer advocacy or to be successful at doing it. Like be a part of those conversations that people are having,
Yeah,
be a part of their
always show
learning
up.
process, be a part of their building process. Like just be there is actually relatively simple. And it sounds like you've, well, obviously, because I know this, but like based on everything you said, like you've absolutely done that. And I think leads like is the perfect gateway to what DevRel is and what it should be.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And like, if someone wants to get into the field, they feel like it's scary. But like, yeah, I would say the best way is to kind of like do the job before you actually get the job. So
Yep.
like, by conference, a free conference. I did not get paid to do a talk. There are meetups. Meetups are very effective. And fun fact, I spoke recently at a meetup organized by my colleague Alex. It's called Connect Dev Africa. So the goal was
Cool.
to create a space that people from Africa can share the things they learn, the cool stuff that they know, showcase their
Yeah.
projects. And yeah, so like I went on that yesterday and I gave like a talk about like it's an introduction to GraphQL. So if you
Cool.
don't know GraphQL, go check it out. It's so nice.
Do you have a link
But
to
yeah,
it,
so
by the
like,
way?
oh yeah, wait, let me send you a link of the video.
Yeah, throw that in the chat. Which, by the way, special surprise, Will Johnson just landed in the chat. He said that he's in the presence
Yo,
of greatness. But Will, what you don't know, or maybe you did, I don't know, is that we've already shouted you out and talked highly about you as well. So I love all of the developer love and the community and the connections that people are making to other people in the chat. That's really cool. I will probably watch. I know ish GraphQL, but I don't know it that well, and I feel like I could always go back and watch a refresher video. So I might go in and watch that one as well.
yeah, but like anyway, back to the main point. So like talk to meetups. So meetups are an easy way to get exposure. The audience isn't huge, it's kind of like very small, so like 100 something people. Some meetups are a bit bigger, some are a bit smaller. But yeah, actually I spoke at meetups, like my local meetups, but it was like in Arabic, so it wasn't English.
Oh,
It's
cool.
called like Egypt.js. Yeah,
Yeah.
so like it's a JavaScript unit in Egypt.
That's awesome.
Like this was the first community that I kind of like encountered. And I remember I was like a noob. I did not know anything about like JavaScript or web. And the talk that they did was summarizing like the state of JavaScript. So for those of you who don't know, the state of JavaScript is like a survey that is done every year where it kind of like just summarizes everything JavaScript related. So when I was a beginner and I saw like, whoa, there are so many things, there are so many frameworks, so many tools, and I kind of got was a little bit intimidated, but I
Hmm.
was like, okay, this is a cool community. I want to give back. And I gave two talks, I think. The first talk I ever did was a book review. So like I just shared things from a book that I learned. It wasn't
Nice.
technical at all, but it was
Nice.
welcome. It was like a lightning talk. So like it was
Yep.
just a 10 minutes in front of people. They were like 50 or something. And it was terrible. Like
That's awesome.
I know now it wasn't that good. So like, but like be comfortable. Like it's okay. People that listen to you, they want you to succeed. So kind of like relax. I was like, okay, here's the first point. Click. Here's the second point.
Yep.
Click. So like it like you don't like what I want to say is you have to kind of like try, and it's okay to try. It's a bit scary, but just do it. So like apply to that conference, go to that meetup, ask James, DM him, hey, can I be on your live stream?
Yeah.
Probably he wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
Now you'll have a lot of like requests. Sorry about that. But
if you
yeah,
if you tell
the
people to do it, they will do it. So now I'm gonna get an overwhelming amount of invitations or like pitches.
yeah. Yeah, and like actually, I reached out to James. I told him, "Hey, do you want to like, can I come on your stream and like we can talk about this stuff?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure."
Yep.
So I would say there's no loss in trying. So just say what's the worst that James could have said? Oh, sorry, I'm fully booked. There's
Hmm.
just so many streams, so many people want to come on the stream. I'm like, yeah,
It's just
sure,
so
okay,
popular.
yeah, like yeah, like, it's a struggle. Okay,
And part of it was I think you probably reached out in like early April is when
April.
we talked
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it,
that was
and
like
then
a month.
yeah,
Yeah,
so a little bit of a wait time. But I think that is like I don't want to say getting into DevRel is easy. I think I think the point is that there's so many things you can do if you try to point yourself in that right direction. Exactly like you said, there's tons of meetups. A lot of them are now virtual, so you could potentially speak at meetups all across the country and world if you wanted to. Some of them are getting now back into person, so you could do some of that. There's Discord and Slack communities. You could create a video, you could create an article with something like dev.to or Hashnode. Like it couldn't be easier to actually create an article. And I know people get really intimidated of like, what would I say? What would I talk about? And I think you had a great point of like it doesn't also have to be technical in the sense of like writing code. It could be things that you've learned or things that you've mistakes you've made or whatever, right? Like that sort of stuff is super valuable. And actually, if you look at like some of the blog posts that do the best, a lot of them are like 5 things I've learned becoming a developer, 5 things I failed at and becoming a developer, like whatever. But they're super useful and they couldn't be more accessible to people. Like if you have an internet connection and you have some type of computer, laptop, desktop, whatever, you can create content that other people can benefit from.
yeah, I agree. Like, so, okay, so one important thing to highlight, there are many types of content. So there's
Hmm.
written, there's video, there's live, and technically tweets are a form of content.
Hmm.
So basically, any, like you can share your knowledge or your experiences in many ways.
Yep.
Pick the one you're most comfortable with. Don't feel like you're forced or like you have to do it a certain way.
Yep.
Because, for example, Sam, big shout out Sam, has a great newsletter. So he writes very well. Maybe he doesn't do a lot of videos, but he writes a lot, so that's
Yep.
really cool. I personally I love videos, even though they
Same.
take kind of like the most amount of work, but like at the same time, they kind of like have this one drawback, and it's they're immutable. So like once a video is out, I can't edit it
It's a
unless
great
I create
programming
like a
word,
new.
by the way.
Yeah, so this is kind of like the only drawback. So like writing is very portable. You can just write things, and you can use many tools. And there are a lot of platforms that support it. You have Hashnode, you have Dev.to, and you can have your own blog, whatever. I would say just write stuff, just create
Yep.
whatever you want to experiment with, just do it. It's fun. And yeah, if you have the vision of becoming a developer advocate, then definitely do the job before you actually get the job.
Yep.
So like, yeah, be present in the community, create content. And when you apply, you can just say, hey, I have all of this stuff that I created. So like for
Yep.
me, it was like, I had a couple of videos, 2 talks, and instructional like videos where I kind of explain concepts. And yeah, and then I also had like my own personal projects and my own portfolio website where I showcased all this stuff. So I showed that I knew how to code, I knew how to
Yep.
create content. And yeah, and when it was like interview time, I was just myself. And yeah, that's kind of like how it happened.
There was there was, I forget what it was, some company that I like went to, that I applied for their guest author program, was like, okay, before we accept you, we'd like you to write a sample piece. And in my head, I'm like, I'm not gonna write a sample piece when I have 50 blog posts out there. Like you can go and read the 50
Yeah.
blog posts. And like when I applied for, my YouTube channel has grown a lot, but when I applied for All Zero at the time, I mean, I had 150, maybe 200 videos on YouTube, right? And like
So
20
consistent. I'm so jealous.
articles. Well, it's all about like, you mentioned video taking the most time. Interesting thing for me is like, video is by far the easiest. Like I struggle so much with writing. And that's again, like people, there's not one set of content that works. You don't have to do anything specific. You can do it your own way. You can do it what's genuine. And I just do stuff that I enjoy. So like last week I didn't publish anything because I had other things going on and I didn't want to like force myself and put that pressure of you have to get a video, because I want my stuff to be like, it's because I enjoy it. It's because I want to. And I think that makes
Yeah.
it a lot easier for me to keep that consistency. But I would love to have more written content. I just it doesn't come as easy to me, and I've stopped doing it for the most part, at least for a couple of months, because it just doesn't click. Like it's just harder and it's mentally more stressful for me.
Yeah, I'd say again, do the format that you're most comfortable with. So, like for me, videos take the longest because I want to make sure that they're straight to the point, no
Hmm.
fluff, nothing. So they go through like I first write, and this written kind of like script,
Hmm.
I turn it into a video, and so like the script can easily become a blog post if I want.
Yep.
So like I usually don't freestyle videos. So like I don't just open a camera and just start talking. No, like that's kind of like the secret that people don't know. I go through the same video over and over until
Yeah.
it feels like yeah, it's natural.
Feels right.
Like
Yeah.
this is like my first time. I know when like I don't think people like understand like every single pause, like every time I just stop, everything's just kind of like like prepared.
Yep.
So people don't see like what happens behind the scenes. So like yeah, that's kind of like why videos take the longest for me. Because I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist. I just have really high standards, which is kind of like another.
Which is close to perfectionist. Yeah, I don't script almost anything for my videos. Like I'm fairly off the cuff. Like the most I will do, especially from a technical video or just like a talking head video, the most I'll do is just have the bullet points of things that I know I need to address, but it's literally like 5 words per bullet point. So I like, for me that actually makes it more genuine, because if I had like a script and was trying to memorize and read from it, it feels unnatural to me. So yeah, I've gotten really used to like, I know what I want to talk about, and because it's like I talk so much, I do this, I do blog, or I do podcasts, I do videos all the time, so it's pretty natural. So I just kind of go for it, and I definitely have some editing, but I think that's also one of the things that people don't realize is how much editing goes into stuff like this too. They think
Yeah.
they think we're the best developers, which is not the case, no matter how good we are. They think we never make mistakes, which is not the case. They think we talk perfectly, which we talk a lot, and we probably are pretty comfortable talking, but we still mess up. And I post like bloopers and clips of my stuff on Twitter all the time of me messing up in intros and stuff.
Yeah, so like I was shooting like it was a 1 minute video. It's just a 1 minute video. It was supposed to be kind of like an announcement for like the upcoming course. I wanted to kind of create like a teaser. And like it was just 1 minute, but it took me like an hour. So
Hmm.
yeah, like while recording, it's like, okay, welcome everyone. I forgot what I was gonna say. Or like I say the wrong thing. Or it's kind of like, yeah, so I just yeah, like there's a lot of editing involved. So that's something you can also do.
Yep.
But yeah, if that's a barrier and that's something you don't like, I would say there are two options. Either don't create videos, just write,
Yep.
or you can outsource it. Like I know people who outsource like video editing and all that stuff. I personally don't have the budget. Like
Hmm.
I also prefer editing my stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the big things that takes time, which we at All Zero on the dev marketing side are about to have a video editor dedicated to developer marketing starting on Tuesday, which is huge. So we're super excited about that. So we're hopefully going to continue to crank out just more and more content. And Will Johnson asked about, and actually CodeStacker just commented too, on the new setup. So yeah, so I've had this camera for a while. I shied away from using it on streaming because I was telling Mahmoud earlier there was like a 30-minute cutoff thing that I couldn't control, so it would just cut off after 30 minutes. But they finally have the updated software for Mac, and when you run that software while you're streaming, it keeps the camera on. So now I'm able to keep it on. Everything else has been here. It's just a different angle than my Brio webcam, and I'm still kind of figuring out what I want to do going forward. As we were saying before we went live, like I want to move my desk around. I want to do all these things because it's never perfect. But I am pretty happy with the way that it's turned out so far. And speaking of CodeStacker, another DevRel in here. He recently, so check out the CodeStacker channel on YouTube. He started, and I
Mongo,
think,
right?
yes, at Mongo. Yep. So he'll
Yeah.
be with Otto, who used to be at Auth0. And CodeStacker, I think, got to 100K subscribers in a year, something
He
really fast,
was
which is,
too consistent.
yes, he was crushing it. So CodeStacker is awesome. He'll be doing some awesome stuff for um, about a year. Yeah, he'll be doing some awesome stuff for Mongo. So, and that's one of those things
Nice.
too. Like by the time he would have applied for Mongo, like I don't think Jesse CodeStacker, you did this, but like I would literally walk into the interview and be like, YouTube
What's
channel, go
up?
look at that. Yeah, right. Like you have, like it's really obvious that you can do that job and you can do it better than so many people, right? Like he's accomplished something that very few people have, and that's just proof. And you said like yours was different things. You had videos and conference talks and articles and all these things. Like that's the proof. That's what the resume is what of those things you have to bring to the table to kind of prove your claim. I was talking about this with my students last night. Claim and evidence. If you say I'm a good YouTuber or I love making video content, what's the evidence behind that? And having that stuff to bring to the table really makes that process so much easier, right? Like by the time you go
Yeah.
to the application or the interview, it's pretty obvious based on your body of work what you're capable of doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like I would say when you have a big portfolio of content, eventually like the job will find you because
Hmm.
like people know you and you're active in the community and
Yep.
like your audience grows because you're interacting with the community, you're posting videos. So yeah, to me it's awesome. I don't think it's for everyone. I think not everyone will like just creating content
Hmm.
constantly. It's not like sometimes you just feel like okay, I'm running out of ideas. Sometimes you feel like I need a break. Yeah, like I don't know. To me, I love it. But yeah, I would say try it before kind of like applying for a job anyway. So
Yeah.
like you can apply to a job without having a portfolio, and that's fine. You can just show that you're a great software engineer, and you can go through the interview process and you can pass. But I would say to get a feel of like the job itself, just create content and see like your favorite format and see do you like the process or not. If you do, that's awesome. And yeah,
Yep.
I like to me till this day, I'm not convinced that I actually this is my job and this is like what I get paid to do. Like to me, like really, like when I tell my
you're gonna
parents,
you're gonna
they're
wake
like,
up one
"What
day.
do you
Yeah.
do?" Yeah,
It's
like what do you
almost,
do?
yeah. And you're like, no. I get paid money to do this. And they're like, what?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's cool.
yeah,
Um,
super cool.
talking about potential on burnout, Sam Julien is mentioning he got burned out on making content and took a break. And that's where his newsletter was born, which is actually another great example of content in so many different forms. And if you haven't, I think Sam, you threw the link in the chat. Feel free to throw it in there again, or people scroll up to find the developermicroskills.com. But he uses that, does it weekly, and just has like so many tips on like micro skills in general. So career advice, like how do you prioritize things? How do you focus? How do you get stuff done? It's really great. So I think that's a perfect example of another form of content. And before I move to Catherine's question, which I think will be a good one, Marcus Lyons is on, if I'm correct, I think Marcus Lyons, you're on TikTok as well. I just posted my second video on TikTok and want to do a little bit more. And I want to get into doing some for Auth0 TikTok. So keep an eye out for some TikToky videos to kind of force my hand at creativity and stuff. Yeah, Marcus is on there,
Yeah,
so
I
go
want to
follow
do it
him as
on
well.
TikTok
Yeah,
too. Like,
you would be great.
I should be creating.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it's like it feels like TikTok is this platform where it's everything is unpredictable. So like one time like a piece goes viral, other times they don't.
But
But I don't know.
that's
Like it's really
yeah.
fun. But yeah, that's a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, with
And
YouTube,
that's
you know.
same thing. Yeah, exactly. Like I had those 2 videos that did really well, and then my channel just escalated. And it's all about I think it's all about like putting yourself in more and more opportunities to have that success. And what I mean is like I continue to create 1 or 2 videos every week. They're not 95% of them aren't doing what those 2 videos did. But if I continue to give myself more opportunity to have content out there that does catch on, that's how I continue to grow with my channel. So yeah, you never know. You try to follow the trends and the hot topics and stuff, but you can never guarantee something to really take off. Um,
Yeah. If you have like a 1% chance of succeeding, you put out 100 videos,
one of them,
eventually,
yeah,
yeah,
yep,
it'll take
exactly.
off.
This is a great question, one that I wanted to get into from Catherine. Which, by the way, talking about creating content and having that lead to something, I just want to again shout out Catherine for building the readme.so product, which is like a GUI for building readmes. It's awesome. Go check it out. And that caught on, and people shared it so much and liked it so much that she ended up getting a couple of job offers from different companies just based on that work. So, like, your content, the things you create can absolutely like lead to multiple different career paths. And in this case, we're talking a little bit more specifically about DevRel. But Catherine asks, how much code do you write? How much of your time is spent creating content versus coding versus other stuff? I'm going to let you answer that first, and then I'm going to add some stuff on after.
Okay, so the answer is it depends. So I would say it depends on kind of like what's needed right now. So just to make sure I see the question. Okay, so how much code do I write? Um, so it depends on, so like, okay, so for Prisma, there's already a lot of code examples. So I'm not creating something from scratch. So that's one thing. However, to create content, I'm currently focusing on kind of like tutorials. So I have to build a demo for it. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, I spent a good amount of time creating a demo for a complete app. So it had a database, it had Prisma as the ORM to talk to the database, it had a GraphQL API, and it had Next.js on the front end. There's also, I'm planning on adding like authentication, and also there's like image uploads. So like it was
Nice.
a big,
Yeah.
big demo. So this took a while. Now, technically, I didn't have to do it, but this way I kind of covered questions that our users had. So they were like, okay, how would you implement GraphQL pagination, for example?
Hmm.
So this took me, so like, um, to answer that question, I had to put on like my developer hat, not the content creator hat, where I kind of like had to go through different resources. I went through our docs, and through this process, I'm going through like the same steps that a developer would go through, and I can instantly see gaps of things that we need improvement in our documentation and in our resources. So I was like, okay, this is not super clear. And then I would probably ask also like engineers, is this how it would be done?
Hmm.
And yeah, so like literally a developer for a while. And then once I have that ready, I put on my content creator hat, which is like now I think about, okay, how would I want to teach this? How would I want to explain this? What kind of visuals am I going to use? So I would say it's kind of like a back and forth between the two. I never do both simultaneously. So to kind of answer the question, yeah, I would say it's like 50-50, but the 50-50 kind of like moves depending on what I'm working on right now.
Yeah.
So I like to split it in like 100% coding, 100% creating content. So I think others maybe would like to combine it to kind of like switch things up. But for me, yeah, that's kind of like how I work.
Yeah. And I think it can definitely fluctuate even more depending on the specific person. I think is something you started to address too. Like Sam Bellin on our team, Eurosam as we affectionately refer to him. That's because Sam Julien is Amerisam, America Sam, and Eurosam is
Yeah,
European
yeah.
Sam. Um, he does a lot of our open source projects, so he writes a lot of that code in addition to his regular DevRel activities. So he is definitely probably the one on our team that writes the most code, but has been very intentional, I think, of that being something that he really enjoys. We also have an internal project for tracking our contribution, like speaking at events and videos and live streams, that kind of stuff. So we have an app with really cool tech stack. It's Nest.js, which is kind of like Angular TypeScript, but for the backend, which is really neat.
Yeah.
And then Svelte, which I've gotten into and love Svelte
Ooh.
recently, by the way. So I'm doing a crash course on that on my YouTube next week. And then I think it's like Bootstrap and Auth0 for authentication, that sort of stuff. But we have kind of taken on working on that as part of our regular stuff. So taking a few stories every couple of weeks, doing an agile process with a review. I like maybe that's been in a 2 week span, 5 hours of work is dedicated to that for me. Other coding stuff is really just doing demos and like my Twitch bot that I have for handling commands and stuff, or other, I don't know, other demos I do for tutorials. I will say one thing to consider, I do think you stunt your development growth a bit because you're not necessarily working on some of those enterprise applications. So you're just not seeing those type of scenarios, those types of issues as much, obviously, as you would if you were doing like full-time software development. So when I finished my career at Microsoft, where I started my career as a technical evangelist, my next role was a software developer at FedEx for a couple of years, and I mixed in like being an architect there too. But that couple of years as a full-time software developer, like the my knowledge of development was exponential. Like it was so much different than the just like easy demos and things I would do at Microsoft. So I will say there is like, I think it's important to have some hands-on full-time development experience to get yourself just more exposure and more experience from a development perspective. And then if you move into DevRel, you're definitely sacrificing some of that. Like you're not going to be doing it all the time. But I think you do have a little bit of control over how much time do you choose to spend writing code, preparing demos, that sort of stuff, versus doing talks. There's a little bit of flexibility there, but it's definitely not the same as doing like a full-time software developer job.
Yeah, like I would say a good way to kind of like keep your skills sharp is to build side projects.
Hmm.
So that's kind of like what I do. If I want to learn, like for example, cloud computing with AWS, that's not something that I'm directly exposed to. So what I would try to do is either build my own side project or try to integrate it with what I'm working on so that
Yep.
I can reach other communities and at the same time I also learn. So yeah, I would say like I love this job like so much.
Yeah.
I'm super
Same.
grateful.
Yep.
Like I can't complain. Like if I'm like my progress is a bit slower as a developer, okay, that's fine. Like to me, I don't see myself like going back to software development. Like I would do it if I have
Yep.
to. If like there like I don't know something happens
And you
and
didn't have, yeah.
um yeah, like I couldn't do developer advocacy for whatever reason, then yeah, I'll probably go back to being a front engineer. I love it, and I still keep up with everything. But yeah, so like I don't know, like it's a balance, but to me,
Yep.
I'm just having fun. So
Agreed.
I'm okay with a trade-off of not having like the maximum speed of growth as a developer. But yeah, like I have time. So like yeah.
Yep. And you, so for what it's worth, like you have much more developer knowledge than I had coming out of college and then finishing my couple of years at Microsoft. Like I really didn't. I look back and I got good grades in school, but it was just to get good grades. Like I didn't really understand what I was doing. And then I didn't have that opportunity to really learn when I was at Microsoft. Like I was writing simple demos and stuff, but I didn't really learn honestly development until I did it full time. So for me, I think it was much more important than it is for you because like the stuff you've done has already proven that you have a lot more knowledge than I had coming out of that. And then there's also this other aspect of doing DevRel where you're sacrificing a little bit some of like the enterprise type scenarios, like understanding some of those things, but you also have more experience with different technologies. For example, because you have the flexibility to go and choose and like
Yeah.
to try Svelte, right? Like people that are doing enterprise development probably aren't playing with Svelte because their company doesn't use it and they're not going to use it for several years. And we have the flexibility to do some of that stuff. So I think that's one of the things that I particularly enjoy about being in DevRel myself is I get to try out the hot new cool stuff and I get to bounce around a little bit more than the average person. And I think that's fun to have. There's always something new to try, which we were saying earlier, like there's so many technologies, Prisma being one of them, that I've heard of, that I know people love, that I really want to experiment with. And even given the fact that I have more flexibility to do that, I've still got a backlog of like 100 things that I would like to try out.
Yeah, like there's just I don't know, there's just so many things. But like I think eventually I will try like
Hmm.
a lot of them because it's
Yep.
part of my job. So yeah, so I would say the trade-off is depth, but like at the same time, it's like too much depth. And for us, it's kind of like, okay, you have breadth, but it's
Yep.
again, it's too much. So like you have to kind of like go back and forth between the two. So you
Yep.
can be a software engineer and you can create content, but you don't have to do too much of it. And the opposite. So like
Yep.
you are a developer advocate, you don't have to just focus on content and not improve your coding skills. You said like Sam, Europe, he focuses on coding as well. So you can do that. Like, yeah.
Yep.
So we have, okay, also one thing that I'd like to really highlight, I'm super grateful for my team because it's a team. So like I know that there are companies where you have like a smaller developer advocate team. To me, it's like it's a completely different story, and it depends on kind of like the product that you're working on. But like having a team to me gives me also like more flexibility on what to choose because we
Yep.
can kind of like alternate. So someone can focus on something, I can focus on another thing, and we can kind of like switch. So yeah,
Hmm.
I don't know. Like
Yep.
that's also a point that I would love to highlight.
Yeah,
Having a team is
absolutely.
awesome.
And we have an awesome
You have a
team as
big
well.
team. Yeah, you have a big team.
Is it big? I mean, we've got 6 people, 6 or 7. So it's all
I think,
relative. Like,
yeah, like us.
yeah,
I don't know. I
how
think
many do
that's
you have on your
yeah, I
team?
think we are, yeah, I would say like around the same number with like
Yeah.
other people from different departments kind of like contributing as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I would say it's
Yeah.
kind of around the same
So
thing.
yeah, we're probably pretty similar. When I like at Microsoft, the evangelism org, I mean, there was 50 evangelists at Microsoft, right? So
Yeah.
it's all relative. Then you go to like the other extreme where it's like you join a company and you're like starting evangelism or advocacy for them, and you're like the advocate. So there's all different kinds. Sam, this will probably be a consistent theme for us is never feeling like we have enough people on the team. We are small but mighty. Um,
Nice.
and then Catherine mentioned for an interview for a take home project, she tried Prisma and loved it and got the
Yay.
offer. I'm really curious to see, Catherine, what your next step is. I'm really excited and curious to see what it is. So I will wait patiently to see if anything changes. But that's awesome that you, one, tried it, that you enjoyed it, and then got an offer. That's really cool.
3 wins.
Yeah, all wins all the way around. One question I have, I don't know if people can see this. I think Catherine turned it on, so I've got a random lights command, and it actually turned that light on back there. But the way I've got lighting set up now, it's obviously very bright in the background. You can't really see it, and I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do to help because those lights are like part of the interactiveness of this chat, and I want people to see them. So I need to figure out what to do there, how to get some more visibility to the light because it's technically on. I think it's like a greenish bluish color.
Yeah,
It's
it's like
green,
green.
yeah. So yeah, something I want to do. Catherine says Twitter will know when I decide my next step. So follow Catherine on Twitter. And then Fagundo is saying that he is giving a talk at the next Prisma meetup, and it's a Next.js and Auth0 plus Prisma talk. I would love to watch that.
Awesome.
Fagundo, do you have a link to that event? If you do, throw it in the chat, and I will try to be there and check it out.
I can find it. So like it's on Meetup.
He's got. Oh, this is Berlin.
Yeah. So like we organize a
Nice.
couple of meetups. So okay, I'll have to remember because like we have a lot. So we have the Prisma one, 2 TypeScript ones, and one for GraphQL. So like
Sweet.
we have someone who's awesome, responsible for doing events and like managing
Yeah.
and orchestrating them.
Cool.
It's hard. So like actually that's also part of DevRel, and it depends. So like my team, we have someone who organizes events. If
Mm-hmm.
I want, we can kind of like do these tasks, but to
Yep.
me, it's kind of like it's hard, and
Yep.
like that's not where I shine. And I like if I have the option to focus on the things where I shine, I would do it.
Yep.
But like at the same time, I can also experiment with different stuff. So yeah, we have. I'm very comfortable in front of video. Other people are not. So yeah.
Yep. I think that's one of the cool things too is there's a lot of different skills that come with being a developer advocate. Like I think it can be easy as a developer to really just focus on development skills and potentially miss out on some of those other things. I think what makes a really good developer as you start to grow is how you help other people and like implementing best
Yeah.
practices, documenting best practices, helping other people grow. And I think that can be something that is easy to overlook in development careers. For DevRel, I think you kind of you're forced, I think, to learn some of those things more often. Like you obviously learn and practice how to speak and communicate more clearly. You do a lot of community building yourself, so you get more comfortable building relationships, reaching out to people, making connections, having people on live streams, that sort of stuff. And I think those are just some of those kind of like complementary skills in any kind of career that are really valuable. So I like that not only do we get to kind of continue to build up the technical side, but also those surrounding skills, those complementary skills, I think can really help in career paths regardless of where it goes.
Yeah, so like I have this principle that I live by, and it's kind of like be an infinite learner. So when you think about it,
Hmm.
even if I were a software engineer, I didn't do developer advocacy, I would have to also learn
Yep.
other skills. So being a good writer is important, being a good communicator is important, and like actually writing good code is also important. So like like it's inevitable. You have to learn multiple skills. So like I don't like the quote of like jack of all trades. They
Mm.
don't master anything. I disagree with
Master of
that
none. Yeah.
heavily. I think you can have maybe 4 skills that where like you're well rounded. And yeah, if you're a developer, you have to be well rounded eventually to kind of like climb up the career ladder. As a developer advocate, it's kind of like what you have to do. You have to
Hmm.
be comfortable experimenting with different types of content. So like we mentioned, TikTok, it's
Hmm.
different. You shoot vertical videos, they have to be 1 minute. Twitter Spaces, it's audio only. So how do you keep the audience engaged? How do you manage these things? Will, by the way, big shout out, he is hosting like Twitter Spaces.
Yeah. Wait, what
So
time
yeah, like
isn't doesn't he do one about this time right now? Because I feel like I always miss it because it overlaps with my streams. Will, if you're
I'm
still
not
here,
sure.
confirm with us or for everyone else what time your Twitter space is. I wonder if he all right, I'm gonna do a thing. I'm gonna pull open Twitter and just
Yeah, me
check to
too.
see if he
And
happens to be live now.
is he?
Ali is on a spaces right now.
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
think
He says tomorrow. Okay, it's
oh, it's
tomorrow,
tomorrow.
Friday.
Okay.
I think it's tomorrow.
Today's
Yeah,
Friday,
like
right?
with.
So does he
Oh
do them
yeah,
on Saturday?
I'm not sure. It says Friday, May 25th. Maybe that's wrong.
That
I'm
should
not
be
sure.
today, right? No, today.
Yeah,
Wait, today's the 28th.
today's like 20. Yeah, so I'm not sure.
Well, you left us
But he
confused.
says it's yeah. He says it's like no. I don't think it clashes. I think it's after us. So it's like probably Friday, but like later. So like two. It's like 9 p.m. my time. So it's like 2 p.m. your time, something like that. I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So I
Um.
think you can. So yeah. So again, back to topic. So like you have to experiment with different types of content. Audio
Yep.
only to me is challenging. I haven't done it. Like I spoke on 2 Twitter spaces, I think. They were nice, but like I was still getting used to it. So like, do I look at who's in the audience? Because there were like some awesome people in the audience in one of the Twitter spaces that I joined with Colby.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like I got suddenly like, wow, I was starstruck. These people are kind of like listening to me talk. And
Yep.
I'm not big or anything. I have like, I don't know, less than 2,000 followers. And like these people are actually listening to me talk. So like, really?
But
You guys are
it's
sure?
all about what you have to offer. Like you
Yeah.
probably I think you know you're good. You probably don't know how good and impressive you are. Like going back to still being in school, like that's just not a normal thing, right? Like you're in, especially from the DevRel community, like you're in the DevRel community just like every other DevRel, and I've been in my career for 10 years now, right? And I think you're right there with everyone else. Like you're a part of that same conversation. And I think even more so, the stuff that you have, the value that you have to add is more unique because of your position, because of your
Yeah.
lack of experience in terms of years, not lack of knowledge,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like you're newer, so you
Oh,
have a
actually,
different
lack of knowledge too.
perspective.
So like there are
Well,
like actually
yeah.
lack of knowledge. There are still things that I don't know, and to
Hmm.
me, this like actually I feel like this is an advantage because
Right.
having this fresh perspective,
Exactly.
I kind of like see, okay, this shouldn't be this way. This is like
Yep.
too hard. This is too confusing. But
Yep.
like if you're someone that's used to it, you're like, oh yeah, sure, just do that. And like, how
Exactly.
would I know this? And like I had this with AWS. So like things were just confusing, and like as I'm kind of like saying,
As
what is it?
AWS
Like why is
is.
it this way? yeah, like there's just so many services, and like there's no proper like onboarding or anything.
Yep.
You're kind of just, if you want to build, come build, but like how, you have to kind of like try to figure out your way around. So yeah, again, there's this thing where it's like your strength are your weaknesses, and your weaknesses are also your strengths. So if you're someone who's advanced, that's a strength. But at the
Mhm.
same time, it's a weakness because you don't have kind of like
A
these fresh
different
eyes. But at
perspective.
the
Yeah.
same time, it's opposite. So if you think, oh my God, I'm a beginner, that's useful. If you think I'm advanced and that's good, I would say not super good. So you have to kind of like listen to other people's perspective.
Yep.
So yeah, that's, so I would say do not be intimidated. Your journey, whatever you are, is valuable. So that's
Yep.
kind of like what I want to say.
And everyone has something to provide. Like everyone has some sort of knowledge that someone else could use. One quote I've used before is like the thing that you just learned is something that someone else is still trying to learn. Like whatever it is, no matter
Mhm.
how intro you think that thing is, someone else hasn't learned that thing yet. And you could be the person to share that or teach that to that person. And I think that gets also into like people being afraid of like, oh, people have already done videos on a certain topic or articles on a certain topic. Doesn't mean that you can't either. When I search for how to get started with X, Y, and Z, like I watch a YouTube video and then I watch another YouTube video and then I watch another one. Like usually it's 2 to 3 videos that I watch to get a couple of different perspectives and to help like put it all together in my head. So you could be one of those 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 videos that people watch on a given topic for advice or how to get started or how to use the technology or whatever it is.
Yeah, and like one thing that I would love to highlight is that it's not about the topic; it's about the delivery.
Yeah.
So two people can just talk about the same topic, and these different talks will be perceived very differently. So I have like my own style, which is like just high energy, welcome everyone. It's very, I would say, loud a little bit. Some people like it, some don't. That's fine. But eventually, kind of like just be yourself. So if you want to use, I don't know, hip hop references to explain things, do that.
Yep.
If you want to, I don't know, you're a very visual. So I think I saw on dev.to someone that went very viral where they explain JavaScript using visual. So this is a visual person. That's their teaching style. That's what they love to do. And because they did that, it worked. Like
Yep.
there, I believe that there is an audience for kind of like every style.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's just about like there are, when you think about it on YouTube, there are like content where someone is just talking, and there's content where I don't know, someone uses a lot of visuals and tells like a story. It's more like filmmaking cinematic way,
Hmm.
and like they both work. So I would say just do, okay, so I kind of like to summarize everything that we said is like be yourself, try different things. Don't not be scared to apply, because like what is the
Yep.
worst thing that can happen? There really isn't any rejections. So when you think about it, okay, you created a piece of content and it did not get any views. Is this a fail? Not really. You learned while actually creating.
Yep.
Plus, people, like when you're, if you want to apply to a DevRel job, they don't really
You
care
have
about
it.
views. They care
Yeah.
about
They
your
have it as a
ability.
reference. Yeah.
Yeah, so like this is kind of like a game where you really can't lose. All you have to do is just show up and hey, just show that you can actually talk, you can explain stuff, and you can get a job. So like to me, also one thing that I love about this job is I'm kind of like a paid YouTuber. So if I want to become a YouTuber, like it's stressful because you're on your own.
Yep.
You don't have like a stable income. You have to figure out different things. But like here, you're part of a team. You work for a company, and you're part of a community as well. So like it's kind of like just all upside to me,
Hmm.
at least like career wise. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. If I grow and become like YouTube famous, then yeah, maybe I might consider like at 1 million subscribers to be like, okay, I want to do this full time. But yeah, like I don't know, like I'm just happy. And you can see it. Like I'm super grateful.
Yep.
Like people are actually listening. Like again, I just keep thinking and like, wow, people are actually listening to what I have to say. Like,
Yep.
are you guys sure? Like,
It all comes from creating that value for people. You creating value. I actually posted about this in my newsletter this morning. Creating value for people after getting that value, now they care in the future, or after they get that value a few times too, right? Like not just once, but after they get that value and you earn their trust, now they care what you say going forward. Jess, who's in the chat, says getting paid to have fun doing what you love is absolutely true. And I think like whether for people that are listening, whether that's DevRel or whether that's something else, whether it's software development or whatever it is, like my goal in my career is to always be doing the things that make me happy. And if I find myself not doing the things that make me happy, I need to be working towards doing more of the things that make me happy. And I feel extremely lucky, exactly like you said, to be able to get paid, to work for an awesome company, work with an awesome team, and continue to do the things that I was doing in my spare time and continue to do in my spare time anyway. To get paid and do that with really awesome people is a special thing. So it may not be DevRel for people out there listening. I want to make sure that like we certainly enjoy it. We love it. It's good for us. It may not be for you. It doesn't have to be. But whatever it is, like my thing that I'm always working towards is I should be happy with the thing that I'm doing. And if I'm not, I should be making some sort of changes to get to that point. That may be a good wrap up point. I think we're kind of at over the hour by a few minutes,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
good. Give a second, just if anybody has any last second comments. Do you have any like last piece of advice maybe for people that are in the chat as we wrap up?
Yeah, I'd say just experiment, like have fun. You have a weekend
Yep.
if you have some free time. Just I don't know. You can try writing at first. You can try turn on a camera. It doesn't have to be great quality. It's
Yep.
just about you getting used to the process because you'll find that there are a lot of steps, and yeah, eventually with time it becomes second nature. So for you, I'm guessing it's just okay. Put on like a cool T-shirt, turn on the camera, have some bullet points,
Boom.
start talking. It's recorded, edited, publish, repeat.
Yep.
So yeah, and like for me, it's kind of similar, but like I'm still again
A little more
trying to
involved.
improve. But yeah, so that's it. That's kind of like the final thought. And make sure you have fun. And thank you so much for like actually listening to me because like I feel like grateful. Like thank you for your time and
Yeah,
attention.
absolutely. Yeah, same thing. I talk about that a lot too. It's like just getting started. It's not going to be perfect. You have to get better. The first one of whatever you do probably won't be that great, to be honest. But you have to be comfortable with that. You have to accept it, and then you have to know that the next one's going to be better, only slightly better, and then just continue to make things better as you do more and more. Well, cool, Mahmoud. I appreciate you coming on, talking about your experience in DevRel, advice for people as they look to get started. I'm gonna rate us over to Clarkio. He always is streaming right after I get done. And then I think just one last shout out to for Will Johnson. Um, he is going to be streaming or on Twitter Spaces at 2 p.m. Central. So that is in almost 2 hours from now. So people can keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, I will send people over to Clarkio's channel. Thanks again, everyone, for hanging out. I appreciate it. I enjoy the conversation with Mood. Thank you again. And I will see you all around.
Awesome.